Hello everyone, in this video I'm gonna go over my personal experiences regarding my college applications, and I'll share with you how to go about by the process since some students find it very complicated. These are the things you need to get started with. First of all, your academics and extracurriculars, and by academics I mean your A levels and SATs. You need to make sure that you are keeping a persistent grade in monthlies, and most of students don't know this, but your A2 midterm grades are sent to your universities for keeping the track of your progress. So don't just think that if you're done with your A1 exams and then these are the only grades your universities are gonna get. They're also gonna get your midterm exams. So, and as far as SAT is concerned, I have already put up a post about that on my page. You can go follow that. SATs are like an admit card to university, so please take it seriously and start working on that. And by extracurriculars, I mean that if you've done an activity and you don't have the certificate for that yet, contact the concerned person and get it made so you have a statement to prove your activity, right? And then, of course, going overseas and studying there is gonna be expensive, and it's gonna require you to manage your budget smartly. So one thing you need to do is you need to have a discussion with your family about your yearly budget. How much are they willing to pay for your education yearly? And then you can start on with planning the region where you want to apply, because finances are usually the biggest issue in going overseas and studying there. But of course, if you work hard enough on your applications, you're gonna get good scholarship offers, so don't worry about that. Third is the most important thing, it's your motivation level. Find why do you want to go abroad? Why do you want to put this much effort? Just search about how your life is going to be impacted if you study overseas, because that will be your motivation, and which is very important to go through the whole process since it takes time and a lot of energy, and with A levels it gets exhausting. But yes, so motivation is really important. So we'll start with these three things. So if once you have these three things figured out, you will be ready to begin the process, right? And then comes the process itself. So you need to make your Common App or UCAS accounts. Common App is mostly for US universities, but there are some other universities available on it. For example, you can apply Qatar, some universities in Qatar, and you can apply some universities in even Japan and Germany. So you need to see if your required university is on Common App, and the limit to apply the universities on Common App is 20. So you need to, assemble your universities well, because you don't want to play all your cards in one region. So just see if your required university is on Common App. And then UCAS is used to apply for UK universities. So yeah, if depending upon the region you're interested in, you need to make your Common App accounts and UCAS accounts, right? And then comes the College Board account. College Board accounts are usually used to register for SATs, but once you complete your profile on College Board account, it suggests you universities. One more important thing is a CSS profile. So CSS profile is a profile you fill on College Board account. It is basically an application for financial aid. So most universities in US and some in other regions require the CSS profile to evaluate you for financial aid. So they basically ask you very, very detailed things about your family and about your financial situations, even the utility bills and stuff, right? So once you fill the CSS profile, you can send it to different universities, And there is an alternative that you fill out the different forms for each university. So you have two options: you fill the CSS profile, or you fill the forms for each university separately, right? But the downfall with CSS profile is it that requires the submission fees. It's $12 for each university. So if you're gonna apply to 10 universities, then it would be $1,200. So that might be expensive. But some universities do allow you to fill their separate forms, although some not. So you wanna email them and ask that if they accept the separate forms or not, and is there an alternative to CSS profile. Some universities don't give an alternative. For example, NYU doesn't give an alternative. You have to submit the CSS profile. So you need to, get in touch with your required university and see what's their policy is. Then comes the personal essay, which is very important. So it's the 650 words essay in which you write about yourself or anything, or your life experiences, or anything that interests you. You just need to make it interesting enough that the admission counselor says that this is it, right? So he or she is gonna read thousands of essays, and then yours should stand out. So it means that it needs time and it needs effort to make it that much impressive. So you need to start doing it now. Best way is to do is make a Google document and then start putting prompts on it, and then start writing on ideas and reread it, and then figure out which one is the most interesting one, right? So yes, a thing about personal essay is it's very much advised that you get it reviewed by your peers, by your counselors. I'll be more than happy to review it. I'll drop in my email at the end of this video, so you can email me the document. So you share it to me, so that I can leave my comments on it, right? Also, there is a website called collegewine.com. I'll share it later in next slides. So basically how it works is that you review other people's essays, and then you gain points, and then you get your essays reviewed for those points. So it's a very helpful thing. So you read others' essay, and then you get a point of view that how to write those, and you get ideas and stuff, right? So yeah, the personal essay is a 650 words essay that you need to work on. It's a gradual process, right? So you change it, and then you change it, and then you change it. I made at least 20 to 25 drafts of my own personal essay, and then I was able to finalize it. So you need to work very hard on the personal essay. Then comes the extracurricular activities. Okay, so in some universities pay extra attention to your extracurriculars, but it's mostly in US. If you're applying in Pakistan, then your extracurriculars are not as important as they should be. But if you're applying overseas, and specifically in US, then your extracurriculars activities counts a lot, especially if they're on a national level. So if you have a national level extracurricular activity, you have an advantage which will help you get in, right? And then comes your recommendations. So Common App requires your recommendation from your counselor, and then for each university it requires recommendations from your other subject teachers, or if you have done any internship, then your employer. So, and then if you have a debates coach, or if you have a sports coach, then their recommendation. So recommendations are very, very, very important. And since our teachers are teaching a large pool of students at one point, and the application process starts around November, it is full swing in November. So you need to start asking your teachers for your recommendation, and you need to remind them that they have to write a recommendation for you, so they won't miss out the deadline, and you'll be able to submit your application. As far as the recommendation of counselors is concerned, counselors are usually responsible about it, and they do write your application, but you need to make sure that you know them or they know you, so they could write a good recommendation for you. Then comes your research about university. So once you have done these all things, you made your accounts, and then you gathered all your documents, and then you have asked your teachers for recommendation. Then comes the research about universities. So the thing is that you want, depending upon your yearly budget and your academics, you need to find out universities which are suitable for you or which will work out for you. Research about universities may take a lot of time. So I would suggest that first get done with your A1 finals and then start with the research. Plus, but you have to give your essay time right now. You cannot neglect it. I'm just talking about the research itself, which can be done after your A1 exams. Then, yes, it's very important to get in touch with the alumni who got accepted, because they are experiencing it, and they have been studying in the institution itself, so they'll be able to tell you better about the situation, the living situations, the campus life, the quality of the education there and stuff. So if you want to apply to university and you know that alumni got accepted, so you need to get in touch with them, ask them any questions you have in mind, or clear out your doubts so you can, make your journey easy. And then seek help. Of course, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to anyone or seek help. The process is long, right? So you need help. You have to get your essays reviewed. You need second opinions of universities. You need a professional opinion. So please don't ever hesitate to seek help, because it's very important, and you get a different point of view on things which will help you decide. Then comes, yes, most of students are confused about what is early decision and what is early action. So let's talk about that. So early decision is a binding agreement. It means that if you get accepted, you have to go to that university. Also, one more thing, that you apply only to one university through each one of these. So when you apply to university na, so they ask you, okay, if you want to apply to early decision, early action, or regular admission. Okay, so if you select early decision or early action, it means that you cannot apply to any other university than that. So you apply to just one university through early decision or early action. Let's move on to their comparison. So early decision is a binding agreement. So if you got accepted from that one university, you have to go to that university and you cannot reject the offer then, right? So there is a catch though. If you apply for 100% financial aid and they won't be able to give you 100% financial aid, then you can reject the offer and go on with your admission process. But if you applied for a 50% financial aid, right, and they gave you the 50% financial aid, then you have to go into that university. Plus, if you get 100% financial aid, I don't think so there be a better option. So it's a win-win situation. Also, if you apply through early decision, it shows how committed you are to that university and how you have made your mind about that university. Okay, so it's a binding agreement and its deadline is around October, and then decision comes in December, which is quite quick. So if you get accepted with 100%, so you are, relieved of all the stress and the effort which students make throughout January and February to their applications. Then the offer has to be responded right away. You need to finalize your plans in December. Again, it's the December of your A2, right? Then you apply, as I said, you apply in early decision if you're absolutely sure about the college. Then moving on to early action, it's a non-binding agreement. You don't have to go to that university if accepted. Deadline is again in October, but the decision comes in January or February. Thing about early decision, early action is because you just have to make an early action, not an early decision. So you respond to offer by May 1, which is the same deadline to respond to offers when you apply through regular decision. So you don't have to make a decision right away. You can compare your financial aid offers, you can compare all of your other options and then reply to this option by May 1. And people usually go for early action if they have any doubts about the college, right? So I hope we are clear about early decision and early action. Next comes the college hunt. So one thing I want to say is I have seen students, they restrict themselves that they want to go to a specific country. I would say that please don't restrict yourself. There are so many opportunities in so many areas that we don't even know about, and some areas have very good scholarship offers for you. I have seen students whose parents are not supportive enough and they feel like they shouldn't apply because their parents won't allow it or something. But see, when you apply and you make effort and then you actually get a good offer, then it's easy to convince your parents too. So don't worry about that, just give it a try. Everyone should apply, even though they think that they cannot make it. You do not know what opportunities are waiting for you. So starting off with United States, the living cost is around $20,000 per year, or maybe 15,000 depending upon the lifestyle you want. But it's only the living cost, and then the tuition cost ranges around $40,000 to $80,000 per year. So to apply to United States, you should really not expect much because it really depends upon what financial aid offer you're gonna get, and since it's very competitive, you might not get it, but it's still worth a try because most of the students do get it. And then comes United Kingdom. The cost is around the same. One more thing you need to consider is that the minimum wage in that specific country, because you're gonna go and work alongside your studies, so you will be able to support yourself a little. So you need to consider that into, because every country has different minimum wage and different minimum hours as a student you can work in. And then Canada usually doesn't offer that much scholarships to students. And then comes Canada, Australia, Turkey, Cyprus, Qatar, Japan, Germany, France, Hong Kong. I mean, I really urge you all to explore these countries, to actually see the opportunities or the universities you think you'll be able to get. In Japan, most of the universities are conducting their curriculum in Japanese, but there is a university, Asia Pacific University, which conducts its curriculum in English. So you might want to reach that out. In Germany, if you're thinking that the curriculum will be in German, that is not applicable for all the universities. For example, it's Jacob University. Jacobs is a US university, but it has a campus in Germany. So it offers 5 fully funded scholarships to students each year. So it's worth a try. And then you have France, and then you have Hong Kong. Hong Kong has Hong Kong University, which is called the Harvard of Asia, which is basically the top business school in Asia. So you need to search that up. Hong Kong University also gives 100% entrance scholarship to students. And I have mentioned the resources for confirming the information about universities. I personally consider calling or emailing the university direct, but you can also use QS World Ranking, Times, of course, your counselors, and then current student groups. You can join the current student groups or specific universities so you can get more information. And then the online webinars or sessions held by the universities, admission counselors of the universities, they're available on their websites. You can actually email them directly or call them. And then alumni, as I mentioned before, and then collegewine.com is for your essay reviews. And don't forget to shortlist the ones you're interested in. Again, the limit through Common App is 20. Then comes the question, why do you want to apply to study abroad, and why should you, when you have opportunities in your homeland and then you can stay close to your family and stuff. But the thing is, studying abroad is a life-changing process. It helps you to be independent. It helps you to discover yourself. It can be discovering what you like, discovering what you will be when you live alone, or have that kind of independence that you can make choices for you and then actually learn from it. Because we are protected and sheltered in our homes and our by parents, and then we don't actually know how will we react if some real life issues came upon us. So studying abroad can help you develop that kind of maturity in yourself. Plus, it's very important for your personal growth that you get out of a protective shell and get into the real world and start your own journey. And when you're abroad, you kind of feel like you're on your own, and then you take control of your life, and then you make actual decisions about your life. So that helps you know yourself and grow as a person. And plus, most of the students in our country don't have the privilege to study in such good schools as we are. You have been studying in one of the best schools in Lahore, and you have the privilege to know about this information, and there are people actually helping you out, and you have counselors, you have teachers, and you have seniors who are helping you out. To be able to justify all the privilege you have, it makes sense that you utilize them and then you avail them to be better, because once you're better you can help others to be better as well. It is the right thing that you avail the opportunities and then you seize them, and then you work hard towards it, and then you make something out of it so you can help others, because it should be about helping others in the end. That should be the end of it, I guess. Yes. So thank you so much for watching. I wish you all good luck for your future endeavors. And this is the Instagram handle, student underscore insight underscore. And this is my email, contact si420@gmail.com. You can email me your questions or your essay drafts, and I'll be more than happy to review them. So, yeah, good luck, work hard, and be successful.